Welcome to TIS Prison Mythologies. This is a place where we discuss the myths and realities of the prison industrial complex. My name is Pinky Shear. I am the co founder and programs director of Freedom Overground. Today, our special guest is Kai Peterson, who is the founder and executive director of Freedom Overground. So let's quickly get started on some of these questions. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, how did you become justice involved?
Um, it was it was in 2011. I was in my neighborhood and I was attacked, and that kind of resulted in someone being hurt. The cops being called, and that's how that happened.
Well, what was your life like before incarceration?
Um, my life before incarceration. I pretty much worked a lot. I worked a lot with my cousin. Um, I helped my mom with my siblings, and I spent a lot of time with family. So I'm not going to say a really outgoing person, but I've done a lot of stuff with my family. And in my spare time, um, I like to work on cars, draw, um, swim, which I can't do anymore, which is weird, but and just being outside, fishing, anything like that.
So you just basically were living like a regular, regular kind of life, right? You weren't expecting anything like that to happen.
No, I wasn't expecting anything like that to happen, and that's the crazy thing. Like, um, anything can happen. Like, you could be at your top, and that's what I call my top because at that point in time, I was pretty much living my best life. So I was at my top, and then something unexpected like that happened, and it just brought me down to a totally different level. And after that, it's the trying to rebuild.
And do you feel like when you were going through the court process and when you were dealing with the police, do you feel like your identity had any effect on your case and what happened to you?
Yeah, I know it did because I know before it even was an official charge or anything, just the way that the investigating officers were talking to me, the way they phrased their questions, when they I was taken to a clinic to be examined, the way that that nurse handled me, the things that she said, because she was like, you don't look like a victim, and in my mind, I'm thinking like, what does a victim look like? And then later on, down the line, um, I was in the a room with my lawyer, and he told me that, pretty much one is that I'm black, two, the way I look, and he was like, think about it. Do you really want to, take this to trial? We live in the South. Those little old white ladies see you, you know, outside their house at night. They're calling the cops. So they think you're a criminal. So that things like that just kind of happen throughout that whole process. Um, I even, if I'm not mistaken, even the prosecutor made a remark about my sexuality during um, his part in the thing, and he said that I never dated a man or something to that effect, and I'm thinking like, what does that have to do with anything? It doesn't. But
No, you're right. It absolutely doesn't. Um, Did you experience any kind of mistreatment or abuse during your time while you were incarcerated, not just during the pre-trial services or period, but during the period of actual incarceration itself? What kind of experiences did you have, and were those also influenced by your identity?
Um, I think most of the abuse, neglect, and mistreatment happened more so once I got to the prison. It really didn't happen much in the county jail because they kind of kept me medicated. So I didn't have much interaction with anybody else because I mostly ate and went to sleep because the medicine was that strong. But once I got to prison, it was totally different. I remember once I got to diagnostic, which was something that everybody has to do as part of the intake process of going into prison. And I remember they had a inspection one day, and one of the like top officers, I can't even remember his rank. I remember him coming in, and he started asking me questions because at that point in time, um, I think I had just cut my hair, or maybe I was in the process about to cut my hair. I can't even remember when that part started because I would go through these phases, so I would grow it, then cut it. But I remember him, um, like he was just so rude and nasty to me, and he kept asking me questions. And he was like, "Is something wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Nothing." And at this point, I'm still heavily medicated because whatever I was taking from county, it transferred with me to prison, so I still had to take it. And a lot of the other people that were in the room with me, because it was maybe 8 or 9 of us in that room, and I remember hearing a lot of them say, "Man, you don't even have to do all that. Like, why are you even doing that? Like, y'all just inspecting us. Ain't nothing going on. Like, why y'all doing that?" And from that point on, it was like I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. I knew I was gonna face things. I was gonna have times where it was gonna be hard, but I never expected it to go from that to worse. Once I actually made it to the prison where I done my time, things actually got a lot worse. Um, and a lot of it came from, I would say, mostly the male officers at that prison. Sometimes the female officers too. It just kind of depended on the day and who was actually working what shift. Because it was a lot of times where I could ask for simple things that I needed, or to just try to get to my detail. And it was a lot of times where I was either told no, I was harassed at two of my details. I had my the guy that was in charge of that detail. He told me that he called me a it, a he, she, Mister, Miss Ken, and it was crazy because it was nothing I could do about it. And when I tried to tell somebody that was over him, they kind of laughed it off as if it was nothing. Um, and I even I'm not sure if this really counts, but like I done a lot of time in in confinement because I wouldn't allow anyone to talk to me any kind of way or treat me any kind of way. I didn't want anyone, putting their hands on me, and that tended to happen, um, because they'll tell you, we're officers, we're in charge. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to help you. Like that was what they continually told us day in and day out. So it was times where things between me and officers, it became physical. Um, and it wasn't. I'm not gonna say that I didn't have any part in that, but I learned that I had to protect myself because I didn't want to continue to be hurt, whether it was the emotional hurt or the physical hurt. I just didn't want to keep going through that same thing. Um, so that led to me doing a lot of time in confinement, and during during that time in confinement, I really learned a lot more about myself. um, I learned that it was a different way to fight. Even though I was in that particular place, I found a way to fight them, but I had to do it the smart way, which was writing grievances and doing it that way and getting help from the outside because I couldn't really do much on the inside because it was going to continually be denied or turned down or never even acknowledged.
That is actually a good lead into the next question that I have, which is how did your time while you were inside affect you mentally and physically, and in what way is it still affecting you, and what have you learned from that experience?
Um, Mentally, it really done a lot. It changed the way that I view everyday life, the way that I look at people. Um, I know going into all of that, I was a little bit more optimistic, positive, and being in that type of environment for so long, it kind of changes you. It kind of makes you doubt everything and everyone. You kind of become, I don't know, you just build so many walls within yourself. So it's like you have all these walls built up that you don't even know you have. And it affects the way that I express how I feel or show affection and other things because of the treatment that I had to go through. Physically, it's just, I will say physically, it's not as bad as it could have been, but the emotional damage was, for me, was the worst. I may have, a few scrapes and bruises, cracked bones, from my time inside. But the worst part of it was that emotional abuse. That was the part that took the most from me. Um,
I remember us. I remember you going through that a lot. I remember one of the things that I tell people the most about you, whenever I talk about you, when people ask me about you and why we worked so hard for you to get you home. And one of the things that I always tell folks is that to me, you're unbreakable. You know, I feel like you didn't let being incarcerated for almost 9 years change you. But I know that it did because you're very different now than you were when I met you in prison. But at the same time, you're still you. There's just a little it's a little less of the old you and a little more of the new you, but you're still, you. And I think that's one of the things that I admire a lot about you is that never really you refuse to let yourself become institutionalized. You know what I'm saying? Like that's something that you worked really hard to do. And I'm always in awe of that when I see you and work with you all the time. And it's amazing to me that you still have the same silly, funny nature that you've always had. You know what I mean? But it is something that I really admire about you. Okay, so how is life post incarceration? Is it what you expected? Is it absolutely not what you expected? What is life post incarceration like for you?
um, Life now, it is very different. It is not at all what I imagined or what I wanted most of the time. I didn't expect all of these rules and stipulations to be added to added on top of everything else, because my release is pretty much conditional, um, because I have parole and then probation following that. Um, so it's a lot of restrictions, a lot of things that I can't do um, without permission. So for me, the this was not what I imagined. I thought in my mind, get out, you know, go right back to work, and you know, eventually at some point, be on the road to buying me a house and all this stuff, and it's not like that at all, because it's issues with getting employment because I'm a convicted felon now. You know, and it's a lot of places that say they hire convicted felons, and they do, but I'm in the deep south, so and it's a right to hire state. So they pretty much can pick and choose who they want to give a job to. So it's a lot of times that I'm faced with different challenges, but in the end, I always overcome it because I know I can't allow whatever situation or circumstances I'm going through at that moment to render me uh, immobile. I have to continue to move. Um, and the thing is, I know I'm not where I thought I would be at, but I'm in a much better place than I was, because anything is better than that prison. Even with all the these restrictions they placed upon me, which is like a prison outside of prison, but at least I get to be able to go outside of my door and come back in. I can close it and lock it when I feel like it. It doesn't close and automatically locks and I can't come out. So
That's fantastic. So, what are your plans for the future now?
my plans for the future. Well, I have a lot of plans actually. I have a lot of plans with Freedom Overground to just get us up and moving, and really just being able to help more people on the inside, and to also educate the people on the outside of the difficulties that people on the inside face while they're inside and when they come home. Because I'm going through it now and people don't really understand it. And some people sometimes can be so judgmental and they don't have all the facts. And it's like, you can't judge me when you don't have all the facts, when you don't know everything that's going on. Like, you may know what they're telling you. And when I say they, I mean, you may know what, it says online or in all these different ads and newspapers about all these places hiring, or we hire convicted fellas. You see all this stuff, but when it comes down to it, no matter how hard a person tries to do something, and you have this unseen force, or sometimes it's a seen force that's pushing against you. So it's like you're fighting to go this way, but it's steady pushing you this way. And for me, when that happens, it's just like, you know what? I know I'm doing something right, so I got to keep going. Because if not, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be this hard if I wasn't doing something right. And I know that everybody may not have that same struggle, um, or face the same challenges that I have, since I came home, but I know that it does happen, a lot. Um, so what I really want to do is just continue to help those guys and even the girls that are coming out or while they're in, offer whatever type of support that I'm able to give, and to just kind of educate them on what it is they can do to continually protect themselves while they're there, and to be able to live without being afraid of what's going to happen, or them not getting their meds on time or whatever, because that's one of the things that happens so much in prison, and people really don't know it. So I just want to make sure that I'm there to give that same support that I got when I was on the inside. And my support team know who they are. You're definitely a huge part of it. Well, I wasn't gonna call names, but I'm just saying. But seriously, I just that's just one of the things I want to do. Aside from have my surgery and all this other cool stuff, and yeah.
Okay, so the last question, since this is kind of our pilot episode where we talk about the outline of the show, or we go through the outline of the show, the last question is always going to be our topic for the day. So the last question is, what prison myth, or what is the prison myth that you would like to dispel, and why? And then also for this particular episode, I want to talk about some other prison myths that you're hoping to address during the series as we go along and start making this series. But before we get into those other prison myths, what is your number one prison myth? The one thing that you hear all the time that just is like, that's so not true. What is it?
I think I would say it's the one. How does it go? Something about if you can't do the time, don't do the crime, or something like that. It's some crap like that, and it's like a lot of times it's not even necessarily a crime that is committed. I'm learning now that this justice system is pretty much designed to to me I would say and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. To me it is the same as the Jim Crow stuff. It's the same. It's a way to keep us in bondage, to keep us from doing things that we need to do to just basic survival stuff. You can't do once you get that label placed on you. Once you come in contact with the justice system, it takes away a lot of your rights. And for me, um, that is definitely a huge myth because
You're right. The myth is the, if you can't do the crime, or if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Basically, it's the idea that everyone who is in prison deserves to be there, right? And we know from our experiences that that's not necessarily the case. So, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, only 18% of federal prisoners are in prison for violent crimes, which leaves what, 82% who are locked up for nonviolent crimes. They could be benefited through other resources, programs, rehab, veteran services, mental health facilities, right? So not prison is currently being used as a, well, at least where we're at, a new form of slavery, legalized slavery, because the Southern prison system came up out of the 13th Amendment, which essentially says that no one can be forced to work for free unless they are a prisoner. And it was set into place literally to keep the Southern economy from falling. You know, that was an economic decision. And, the old slave hunters of the Civil War era eventually became police officers. Um, and that's how we got to where we are, because the facility that you and I attended was in the deep south. And if you look at a Google map of the prisons in deep south from like the aerial view, they're all sitting in the middle of farms, because they were the source of labor for the deep south. you know so it is an interesting concept to think that everyone is told, everybody that's currently incarcerated deserves to be there. And you were put in prison for self-defense in a state where it's a right to carry state, and we have stand your ground laws. And I
which I
remember
was
you,
told we don't have.
right, I remember asking you why you didn't plead self-defense, and you said, what did you say?
Mm, they say we don't have a self-defense law in Georgia.
That's exactly what they said to you. And that's the other thing. That's another myth. Police are police don't lie. That's so 100% not true. They can lie to you to get whatever they want out of you. They can use any tactics they want. That's another prison myth that I would love to discuss. And I know that we should probably kind of put in the list of things to talk about on as the series goes forward. Is it ethical for police to lie to you to get a confession or a plea deal? And that's shocking. It's shocking to think that 97% of people who are currently incarcerated never saw a day in court. 97%. That's from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, right? So 97% of everybody that we met on the inside did not go to court for their case. They were forced to take plea deals like me and you.
Mhm.
Somehow that just doesn't seem fair. Like that's not right, because we watch TV. You watch Law and Order and shit on TV, and you're like, oh, this is a court case. Oh, they have evidence, right? And I had a lawyer on my particular case in particular and I said, well, what about that evidence? They don't have any evidence against me. And she said, what makes you think they need evidence? I don't know, the law. The law, maybe, right? And it's mind blowing what they can get away with in order to put people away.
Yes.
So, what other myths would you like to talk about during our, future stories and broadcasts?
Um, uh, I don't know. It's a huge list. It is a very huge list. Um, I can't think right at this moment. Um,
Mhm.
but it is definitely a huge list. One I'm going to have to definitely revisit um, before going any further.
I think some of the ones that I kind of had on my list were um, prisoners get everything for free. You know that one. Oh, well, you get free school, or you get free medical care, or you get, you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that it's easy, that it's like a cakewalk. Oh, you get everything for free. Um, the officers work with integrity and they're good people. That's such a not true. That's
I
so
mean,
wrong.
off of those two questions, I can actually say um, definitely about the part where they think everything is free. Nothing is actually free.
No.
Um, they give us food, and it's not even food. Um,
Right.
don't know what it is, but it's not food. So if you want to eat, you're gonna have to make store,
Right.
and
To
the
buy
prices of
food.
that stuff is so high. I have a
Mhm.
I have a store sheet somewhere. I was able to smuggle one out when I got out. I had it. I think I sent it home or something, but I was able to smuggle out a store sheet just to show people the little jar of Maxwell coffee that you can go and pay what I think like $2 or something for at any store, and there it's like $10.
Mhm. Mhm.
A small bag of creamer is $3, and
Mhm.
the bag is nothing but air. You have this much creamer, and the rest of the bag, which is
Right.
this is air. Like
Right.
it's so high. You have to pay to go to medical. You pay for your sick call, which is the paper that you put in the box. You pay for
Right.
that. You have to pay for your medicine. It's like what? So
Mhm.
don't tell me everything is free. It's not.
Or
Education is technically not even
clothing.
free either.
If you want clothes that fit you, you have to buy them off the store. When I first got there, they gave me a 4XL winter coat. And I recall three people could fit into it. You know what I mean? My shoes did not fit. Like you went through a phase where your shoes didn't fit or they had holes in them or whatever. Like, I mean, it's not right. You know what I mean? Like it's
And
not
that's
what
just
people
because they
think.
issue to you. And that's the
Right.
same.
They give you clothes and you're lucky if they fit you. Too small, too big, whatever. And it's very strange. Also, the one thing that was shocking to me was that they had requirements for women to do their hair, and particularly for Black women, your hair has to be done, but they don't provide you with anything to do your hair with. You get the blue bar soap, you get the nasty, funky, whatever the fuck that deodorant is. That's not even deodorant. I don't know what that is. You get the toothpaste that we clean the toilets with and the sinks with. We clean the silver with the
And
toothpaste.
shoes.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. There's no shampoo. They don't provide, they require you to be well kept, and they require your hair to be done, but there's no way to provide you with any of the stuff to do it with. You know what I'm saying? So for women of color and people who have textured hair and people who have hair that's difficult to work with, I mean, that just blew my mind. I was like, how can you tell them that they have to have their hair like this, but you don't give them any of the stuff that they need to do it with, right? Like that never made any sense to me. I was always blown away by that one. That, and just getting access to like feminine hygiene products and all of that other jazz, like there was some really crazy stuff going on, really crazy stuff. So no, it's not free to be in prison. It's not. I remember there was an okay, so when you were getting resentenced and I came down to do your court case and I was talking to your lawyer, your public defender, his name was Sam, and I was asking him if he could help me get on your approved list for financial support so that I could send you money. And he said, why does he need money? He literally, this is your lawyer, your public defender, the person who was defending you and supposed to be on your side. And he looked at me like, why does he need money? They give him everything he needs. Why do you need to send him money? And I said, no, they don't give you everything you need. You need personal hygiene products. In the state of Georgia, they don't feed you lunch on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or holidays. So you're lucky if you get to eat once a day on the weekends or on holiday. Like, and he had no idea. This is a lawyer that works for the state of Georgia, and he had no idea that that was the case. No clue. And that blew my mind. It's like, how can you be a lawyer and not know what your client's prison conditions are? Especially as a public defender, you need to know what the prison conditions are in the state that you work in. If you're allowing people to go to prison, sending people to prison, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's mind blowing to me. Okay. Could you think of any other prison myths that you might want to discuss?
Nope. I'm gonna say
Okay.
this is just a pilot. This isn't the like. This is
Right.
just us
Well, we
showing
don't
people.
have, we're
Yeah.
not discussing today, but, a list of stuff that we want to maybe touch base on throughout the season while we're doing the interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll let it be a surprise.
okay. That sounds fair. That sounds fair. You can let your stuff be a surprise. One of the ones that I'm really looking forward to is coded biases, which is something that I learned about while trying to get you parole. And that is that whenever someone goes through the system, whether it's federal or state, whenever someone goes through the system and you get sentenced, all of your information, your height, your weight, your charges, your race, your religious background, where you come from, who your family is, all of that is put into a database, and an algorithm, a mathematical computer algorithm, spits out your release date. And that is when you're released, and there is no changing it unless you go through and get your pick points. There are 55,000 inmates in Georgia, and there are 5 parole officers or parole board members, board of pardons and paroles. And the reason that there's only 5 is because they don't actually do anything. It is a computer algorithm, and that algorithm is also responsible for allowing, so it's responsible for keeping Black and brown and people of color in prison longer, even though they're nonviolent, even though they have no reason to be. And it's also responsible for releasing white prisoners who are violent and who are dangerous because they're white. And so the algorithm looks at their race and says that they're less likely to reoffend than this person over here who might be brown but is a lower status level as a risk, right? So that's something really interesting that I learned while I was trying to get you on parole. And it blew my mind because a lot of people, and we spent years trying to talk to parole board. We spent a whole lot of time trying to get their attention. There are families that write letters. There are people who are on the inside that write letters, and they don't even look at them. They completely ignore all of it. They don't care because they have a computer algorithm, and that computer algorithm tells them whether or not you deserve to be released. So that's one topic that I'm really excited about is working on this season. No surprises there. Okay. All right. So I guess that'll do it for our pilot and introduction to our show and the TIS project and our prison myths. So thank you for participating in the interview. And on the next rounds, you will be in my position, and I will be probably beside you, you know, listening to the interviewees.
Yes.
Sound like a plan?
Close enough.
Close enough? You can
Yeah.
kick me out anytime you want. It's not a problem.
I'll keep that in mind.
Huh?
I'll keep that in mind.
But you know, I have all the data. You've got all the experience, but I've got the data here. So,
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, thank you for participating, and I look forward to seeing you again next time.
All right, awesome.